Welcome to the Thresholds of Reality, the podcast where we explore unexplained and mysterious events, phenomena, and legends. Today I am joined by Jessica Arael Marrocco. Jessica is an active psychic, interdimensional seer, Akashic record reader, radio host, podcaster, and owner of Andron ET Talks Radio. She does regular shows with Peter the Insider on her YouTube channel discussing disclosure, planetary, and galactic events impacting the world. And she is a member of the 6th Division of the ACIO. Welcome, Jessica, and we're going to kick off with our normal intro, and we'll be back in 20 seconds. All right, Jessica, thank you so much for joining us. Your bio includes a lot of terms that I don't think maybe a lot of our listeners may not be familiar with. What is an Akashic record reader?
An Akashic record reader is someone that is able to work with an individual and then see their past lives. So you're seeing the soul and then their other experiences prior to this lifetime, and whatever they have done, male, female, they come in all different cultures, skin tone, we
Sure.
have multiple experiences. And so approximately around 2010, 2011, no, I would say even earlier than that, probably around the year 2000 or so, or a little later than that I began to have these visions regarding seeing past lives. I saw my own past life. And so then I began to work with people and started to, it turned into working with clients from there. So that was one of the abilities that I had, including what I discovered later on, that I was also an interdimensional seer. And that's how I got involved with ACIO.
So what is actually an interdimensional seer?
So we have multi-layers of existence. And so, for example, we have our context of existence. That's the way people refer to as. And then there's parallels, right? So we have multiple parallels. Then there's dimensional space. So I say that it's like parallel and the horizontal, vertical, there's those experiences. And then there's also layers of realities.
How do you get tapped into that? How do you tap into?
I started doing it at a young age. So that's part of the reason why that people have I'll say the government was interested in me. That there were others that were interested in what I was doing, because I was able to see certain things. And with the ACIO, which is Advanced Contact Intelligence Organization, or the Alien Contact Intelligence Agency, it can be said either way. I was in contact with the Council of Five, which is an extraterrestrial race, multiple races. It's 5 different ones that are comprised in assisting the planet. And I had been communicating with them. And so an understanding and then seeing certain things. And then I'm, from whatever my perspective is, then they're seeing what I'm seeing.
So your gift connects with their gift, so to speak, and that's how you guys communicate?
Yeah, according to the ACIO, the Council of Five have been overseeing the planet for thousands and thousands of years prior to human existence. And so they saw what I was doing. They knew when I was born. They had a record of me when I was born, and they also saw that there was some kind of activity, that I was able to see certain things. And so, and also, having an awareness of what was going on, from an extraterrestrial perspective, what's happening on the planet.
So is it random, or is it like as soon as, or you decide, okay, I need to talk, they're there, or is it like, how does that work?
It's both. It's both. Since I was a child, I had visions and I didn't know what they meant. Until I got older and I started seeing that there was a purpose for them. It used to bother me, because I go to close my eyes and I'm seeing these things, and sometimes things were coming at me like aggressive. Sometimes they were trying to say something or trying to manipulate me in some way. And, I was able to kind of see through a lot of it. I mean, everyone gets tricked sometimes, but I think I had a good grasp on it at an early age, but I didn't like it. And then later on, I realized I could use those abilities to actually assist people to help, whether it's protection or anything like that. So on command, I can, if I'm working with on a one-on-one, I can, find out what information a person would like me to look at with their permission, of course. I don't just like start going into people's space and looking at everything, but on a global perspective, I'm able to see things that are actually coming into our field on Earth. So activity, I'll say it like that.
So, like, if I came to you as a client,
Mm-hmm.
do you do it a lot in person, or is it a lot like this?
Both.
And what do you have to do? Is there questions, or you just that you have to ask, or is it like just something as soon as you see the person, like these visions and these start to come to you?
Sometimes it's both. Um, I like to tell people the conversation that I'll have with you is according to where you want to focus, because all of us have a broad spectrum of information. So, like I said, you have different lifetimes, but also you have things going on in your present life. And there's also stuff that is playing out. So the past, present, future playing out now. There might be a glimpse of future activity going on. And it can go as deep as a person understands and wants to figure out whatever is happening.
So, like, if I said I'd like something about my future, we'd have to hone it down to like a specific thing, or
So, sort of. You just a broad, statement of which direction is. So, for example, a person might say, "All right, I have this being in my house. Who is it? What are they doing there? Whatever." So that directs it into that discussion. Or someone says, I've had really bad luck in this area. I have these problems. I work at a job, and then the same type of personality shows up. Even if I quit, I'm still having the similar problems. You look for patterns, and there's all sorts of things that everyone has, their unique challenges in life. And so that's how it works.
like if I asked you, like I say, hey, I think I've had a spirit attached to me since I was a kid, and it follows me and it's been next to me for everywhere. Is it possible for you to figure out why?
Yeah. Yeah.
So as I was going through your bio,
during this podcast, let me know, because that's something I've always wondered.
yeah, like we were talking about beforehand, Kyle has had a lot of experiences with ghosts. And speaking of like your background, like some of the things in your bio on the ACIO website are pretty shocking. You're talking about some of the experiences that you had when you were little, like an abduction. Is that right?
Yes. So some of the things that we discuss on the ACIO is that we have, it's not really clear how everything's run in our world. We have a regular government, we have the military, then we have, sort of, the FBI, CIA, and all of them. And, there's a lot of different, advanced groups, advanced military groups, scientists, And then there's these corporations. So a lot of times the corporations are the money behind a lot of the influential things that are happening on our planet, such as who's in power, who's running governments, because they have actually the money to fund it. They're the ones that create the lobbies and so forth. And then behind them, there's other less obvious corporations. Some of those corporations are extremely advanced. So if you come in, say, as a starseed, the powers that be that are in control of the planet recognize that you're a starseed, you're here. It's not a mystery that it's known. You're on the radar, right? And that's why people.
Is there some kind of signal that you give off? Is that why that they're aware of you?
Yeah, I mean, everyone has their own like soul signature, just an identification of who you are. And that's how if I do like an Akashic record with someone, I'm working with them in particular, then I identify with their soul signature. And your soul actually has then a whole history of everything that you've done. And so I can see it. Then other beings that are more advanced than me have a recognition of it. And also some people have been worked with certain groups of ETs, both benevolent, malevolent, or whatever, and they're identified early on. So it happens when you come in, you have a certain soul signature, and then from there, then you're approached by benevolent and malevolent beings. So the malevolent ones, say that these corporations, they're trying to see what they can get you to do. They're experimenting, and so they're you somehow get out of it, but it's one of those things like with the secret space program, you talk about how that they can take you without any missing time. You can be gone for 20 years and then reinserted into your timeline, and no one sees you as a missing person. There's nothing like that, but then there's this underlying recall of this entire lifetime, or some people don't recall any of it. They just know that there's like missing memories of their childhood, or there's something else going on. And then there's other people like, I remember doing this, I remember doing that, I still have dreams of it. They have so much detail. And so it's something like that. And the same thing with being abducted by some of the negative groups or these corporations. It's called a MyLab. So that's not a super soldier experience, but it's a MyLab part of it. And so then you might have recall of being in these, beds, kind of in like more of a hospital facility type of setting. And so, yeah, that's some of the things that happened early on. I don't know if you're familiar with any of this information, so you can just stop me if I'm going into detail or discussing something that you already knew.
Oh, this is all brand spanking new stuff for this podcast. Other than the discussion we had, we sent you the link to our interview with Johnny G, who described what we could probably say is like a remote control soldier or a mind control soldier, where he felt like he was not in control of his body after receiving an injection at a military base. And then many years down the road, after he had left the military, he felt, or he ran into somebody that he described as a CIA contractor. And then very shortly after that, he's missing periods of time. He wakes up, finds himself in a hospital. He wakes up again, finds himself in a different country, something like that. And that was actually what prompted us to reach out to you. Someone in our comments section had told us that you and Peter the Insider might have some insight as to what he was talking about. And so that's basically why we reached out to you. We were hoping you could shed some light on this idea of the possibility, frequency, and methods of mind control being employed by the U.S. military on some of its soldiers or super soldiers, and then what's going on with those types of operations if they exist, and yeah, all of these terms that you're using, they're brand spanking new to us. We're trying to figure out that side of things, and that's where your expertise comes in handy and your experience, so that we can understand what those terms are, what's being used on these soldiers. If you're a random listener to this program, what can you do to recognize maybe if you come across one, or if you are one, and then what's possible to do about it. And then you also mentioned that you might understand a little bit more about his spectrophilia side of things too, and we'd love for you to shed light on that too. So I guess first is, what's going on with these kind of remote control or mind control soldiers? Are they like Jason Bourne but remote control? I mean, what's going on there?
Yeah, stories like information like Jason Bourne. We have a whole series on the ACIO official website.org. You'll see that we make a lot of references to TV shows as a point of reference, and also that sometimes they're actually revealing soft disclosure of some of the things that they're doing. And so in his case, there's many groups right now that have access to very advanced information, and not just the government, not just the U.S. government. So he may think that he's working for the U.S. government particularly, and he may not be. When he got pulled in, they may have enhanced him, gave him MK Ultra type of program, some very advanced program. And then before you know it, he's got his trigger words, and also probably injected with technology, where then he is obeying at certain points. And so this is where the blackout happens. And then
I think he described that he felt like he had a tracker in the back of his head or something.
Yeah.
So
probably more than that.
How do they do those trigger words? Is it someone has to be close? Is it something because of the tracker that they can initiate through it, or?
He could have significant amount of missing time where he went through the mind control process with other individuals in a facility. He could have been, you could have been laying down in like a bed, some kind of bed, and just plugged in and just, repetitions and all sorts of different things that are utilized in mind control. And then that can be wiped. They completely wipe it. So you don't have any necessarily recall. We're talking advanced, very, very advanced technology to be able to do some of these things. And then also so that he is operational in society for the most part, but yet kind of at their beck and call, almost like he's some kind of mercenary, maybe, or doing something that he doesn't know about. And I'm not trying to get him in any trouble or anything like that, but you see what I'm saying is like they can do all sorts of things, and they could even be taking him out of our reality and doing some of this, where he doesn't even know where he's at.
How do you mean take him out of our reality, and how would they do something like that?
They have the technology to take him into other realities.
Like
a parallel
timeline, or
the U.S. military has that technology?
They do. Most of the militaries do, of different nations. They have, but like I said, the corporations have access to many, many things, and they're able to actually take him to places, and then they can do this complete mind wipe. It's amazing. There are people that just they have fractured memory of certain things, and like I said, not all of them are benevolent, and you should never be. I just want to say ethically, I'm not supporting this, but it's happening, And there are, because a lot of this technology has gotten into in the hands of people that are not ethical, that they could use someone to be like, I want to say hi. They can use some, like there's that movie series called Hitman. I don't know if you saw that, but
Yes.
they get an identification. They pretty much are trained very similar. I don't know if American Ultra. I don't know if you saw that one where he. You guys are not familiar with that one. What he does is he's just like a regular guy. He's kind of like he works in a variety store, late night, kind of like a 7-Eleven or something. Someone comes in to messing with his car, and he's eating a yogurt, or something out of a little cup, and he goes over and literally kills someone with a spoon. Mm-hmm. And so by doing that, he recognizes that he knows how to fight professionally. Actually, he knows how to be an assassin. And he's like, I don't even know how I know this. That might not be the role. Like some of this information with your friend, his name is Johnny. Is that his name?
Yes. Johnny G.
Johnny G. Yeah. He may be used for something else. He may be used as, a bodyguard, or he may be used to assist in some aspect of the government somewhere, and play out some kind of role where, they're worried about someone else getting hit. They kind of put him out there, and then they pull him back. He wipes his mind, and then he's has no memory of it. So there's no trace to anything that's being done. They usually, these elite groups are very good at cleaning up everything. So, and have all the connections and ways to kind of shift things. And the really dangerous ones are the ones that can shift time. And so you don't, even those that go to investigate, it's hard for them to locate what's happening.
So when they pull somebody from one reality to another, what I pictured in my mind almost as close to, like, you remember the movie The Fly? How he had to go into one pod and then it would.
Yeah.
Is that, I don't know if you know or not, but is that, what kind of technique what do they have to do to be able to take someone from one reality to another? Can they do it without some kind of device like in The Fly, or does it have to be in some kind of like device?
Yeah, and in The Fly, it was almost like they're in a earlier stages, formative stages of it, where it became a mix-up, right? So he turns into particles and then ends up in this other space, kind of like with Star Trek, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like a teleporter.
But it messed up, and then he got merged with a fly, and that's how he became the Fly, I think, from the movie.
Is that the kind of technology that they use to take them to another reality?
Not necessarily. No, they're much more advanced than that. They have facilities that they can do that. They have jump rooms.
They're called jump rooms?
They call it, it's referred to as a jump room. Yeah.
Okay.
And, of course, there's smaller devices. I mean, some people don't really need it. They're so enhanced, they don't really need devices at all. Their device is themselves. If you can imagine that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like people have been imagining that for a long time. Like, there's talk, I think, in Bible and other ancient, of people who had the ability to instantly travel great distances. But I guess my question now is, in your involvement in all of these organizations that you're a part of, ACIO, and maybe the organizations that were not as helpful,
So he's not coming back. So he
Sorry about that. Sorry. So these different organizations. My question is, what were the projects that you yourself were a part of, if you can talk about it? I don't know if there's any kind of like confidentiality that you might be subject to, but if there's any projects that you yourself were part of, can you tell us what they were and what your role was in developing them?
I'm not necessarily a scientist and was not in any of those type of facilities, but my key role is being the observer, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah.
So
you're
I've
like
been
like the Watcher from comic books.
like the what?
Like the Watcher from the comic books.
I suppose, yeah, because the 6th Division is connected to the Men in Black, and that's the division that I'm a part of. And I'm also connected to Cicada 3301. So they've used me they've worked with me to assist in finding things. It's like when someone says they want to bring in a medium to look for a child that's missing, and then they'll see, bits and pieces of, what had happened to that child and kind of lead them to an area that they recognize. They've had me figure out certain things that's going on in the planet.
How come they don't? So can the aliens not truly interfere with what's going on in the world? Like global warming, for example. They can't be like, hey, like, we can help fix this. Are they not allowed to intervene?
They have. I have seen them intervene. We've had discussions where we should have had like a nuclear event, and it was stopped, but people don't know about it. There's been plenty of things that I've seen. Fukushima should have been a lot worse. So they have, let's say, cleanup crews. Do you ever see when the iconic point where you see a vehicle, an extraterrestrial vehicle is parked somewhere, and suddenly these vehicles just show up out of nowhere really quick.
Mm-hmm.
They always know exactly where to go, and then there's no evidence of it, and then they say, oh no, it was nothing, it was just like an inflated balloon, or you know what I mean?
Yep.
Oh yeah, that has happened a lot.
Yeah, so those are ETs, hybrids, crossbreeds, those that are part human, part extraterrestrial. So you have like a combination that are there. Like I said, some of them are good, some of them are bad. Some of them are helping the planet, and some of them are actually assisting those to manipulate humanity. And when I say manipulate humanity, like, the global warming issue is something that could be easily resolved, but instead there's another possible agenda that's related to maybe harnessing humanity, telling them they can't do a lot of things because of that, but it's because they want to control the population. So you have different things go. So yes, it's going back and forth. But what I will say is humanity as a whole, if they are actually driving a lot of this because of their thoughts and intents and desires for this planet are influenced by humanity more than anything. But some humans like some of the agendas and some of them don't. So we have this conflict, and then there are those that come in and support it. It's complex. So it isn't like we like a godlike being show up and just help us. We get help all the time, but I think they want us to develop in our understanding and make the right decisions, and not be so naive about certain things as well.
Do they bring us technology as well? Like, Like I'm sure they're much more advanced. I'm sure they bring so like someone like Steve Jobs, would they actually come to him and be like, we have this kind of technology, you know what I mean? Like, or do they not do that? They let us come up with it on our own.
I think they influence it. They provide ideas. Tesla, Einstein, they say they got influenced by thoughts of different things that drop in inventors.
They give them a little push.
Yeah, yeah. And then in the case of the Nazis, I don't know if you want to go in that direction. The Nazis were actually regularly communicating with ETs, and so they actually got technology from them. And so they were able. That's when the paperclip group came in. The scientists, they had already been exposed to some very, very advanced technology, and this was on the Nazi quest to go back and find the truth of their people, their ancestors in the Aryan group, right? But in the process, they found many other devices and things around the planet, and along the way they connected with ETs. So that gave them an edge, and that advanced our world significantly. And it has been going on like that, during the 1800s. That whole steampunk, it's like we take these you see these leaps in a society, and there was like an intervention of some sort. But that in the 1800s, that was from the corporations from the future going back to the past and giving them technology
for their agenda.
Absolutely, because then it drives the timeline in a certain way. Correct. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. So we have. You said there's kind of like a good alien and a bad alien. Do they actually like try to stop one another? Like, do they actually battle outside of, or is it just kind of a separate thing? Like there's the good and the bad. They just kind of make their trips in and push their agenda as well, or does one try to stop the other?
Yeah, the one tries to stop the other every now and then. There's different ways to handle it. So there's not just like we don't want a whole, all-out nuclear war here on the planet. They could still be in our, upper level of our planet, or in space, and having a battle there could affect, the electromagnetic field and many of the other planets and other things. So they're not just like blatantly getting into things, but they have their own ways of doing things. And of course, there's councils too that are involved that are kind of, observing. They all know the rules, but then there's rogue groups, and particularly the corporations who don't really abide by the rules, and then things happen to them on occasion as well. So yes, I've seen things go down, and different groups come in, and also how they can disguise themselves to look very human. So
having to see all that's something I could see that's somewhat of a weight that you have to carry.
It's something that, you don't think about it. It's something that I've been doing for a long time, and I had to understand, because I used to say, this isn't fair. Why is this happening, or why is that happening? And frustrating, if anything, to see what's happening to the world in the past couple of years, because we know that some of these things were done intentionally, and so that's been hard to watch.
I mean, yeah, it's got to be so hard because I take it you can do something about it, but at the same time you can't do anything about it because it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, on occasion there are those that are interfering with certain things. I think they wanted to do a lot more and faster. And that's why I think it was scheduled originally for like 2022, 23. and now it's scheduled 2030. Some of the agendas that they want to do on the planet.
Like what?
So smart cities, and turning a lot of artificial intelligence and surveillance, heavy surveillance. So it's almost like we're automated, but essentially in prison. I think I believe one of them had made mention about you'll have nothing and you'll be happy, and someone else, like I'm just trying to be respectful to your channel. I don't know what you want
World
to get
Economic
into, but
Forum.
thank you. Okay.
You can
Yeah,
say
and their
it.
guidance.
Anything
Yeah.
that you can say.
Yeah.
We're not in the business of censoring or silencing anybody.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, they're working for groups and they're doing all of this. Because it's natural for humans to have compassion and care about other humans, and want to make sure that food is healthy and the air quality is healthy, and that children are protected and all these other things. And anyone that's doing opposite of that, it's fair to assume that they are either heavily mind controlled or um, uh, or being used by the darker entities that are here to cause a lot of pain or create a very severe slave system on the planet, which we're trying to avoid.
How do you go about doing that? What kind of countermeasures are being taken?
Exactly what you said earlier. We don't hold back in having this discussion. So the more people that are aware, and so not looking the other way, but actually facing what's happening, addressing and demanding that questions that the questions are being answered about why these things are happening. For example, why are the farmers over in Holland right now protesting? These are people that have never protested against the government, but they are being told that they cannot use the essentials in order to grow plants for the people. So why are they now criminals? It doesn't make any sense. And they're not like like certain nations have a history of rebelling. This is not common for them. These are very easygoing, peace-loving people. And why are certain people buying up farmland in the U.S.? Why are they changing the DNA? Why are they doing all of these things? Obviously, it's for an end result, and so if people do not speak up, I mean, they're attacking the essential life existence with particularly targeting food, but the water would probably be another issue. So I think speaking out, and like I said, it's about the masses saying we've had enough. There's only a small handful of people that are controlling everything. There's billions of people that can speak out against it and say no. Where are the voices on the upper levels? Because the average person is speaking out here.
And you think it's because the uppers are in on it?
Yes. Yeah. They
They
have to be. Or they're
Yeah.
afraid. Some of them are afraid, I believe. Yeah.
They're scared to speak out and go against the grain.
Yeah, and I don't think it's just peer pressure. I think that some of them have been threatened. Yeah, I think you're just like, you'll be out if you don't go along with it. I mean, all of them have been trained by the World Economic Forum, of the young politicians that are ruling many of the nations right now.
So to circle back, did you say that you were abducted?
Yeah, when I was young, I have a history of. There's a group up in called there's a group called Monarch, and then there's another group called Murkoff, And Murkoff was a scientist, a very rogue scientist from Russia. And he was so bad that they literally kicked him out of the country because of his very bizarre experimentation on humanity. They would do things just to challenge humanity and see what they can handle. And at a young age, they ended up kicking him out. He ended up in Canada, of all places, and was doing his experimentation facility there. And then I got pulled in there at a very young age, around the age of 5.
That would have been scary.
I don't remember it. They wiped my memory of a lot of it, but sometimes I'll get glimpses of it. Yeah.
Like, what kind of glimpses do you get? Like, are you more like the bed and just being there, or like?
Yeah. There was a really weird thing that I had. I don't know if you remember the little game of jacks. You have a little red ball and something that kids played when they were really young. And I used to play with that. And I remember being in Florida at some point, and my mother brought me over there. We had relatives there, and I was just a young kid, and I was just bouncing that red ball. And then I had a recall, because they try to wipe your memory, but then sometimes you'll get bits and pieces of it. And I had a recall that I was bouncing that same ball, and I was surrounded by these like zombie looking, really frightening looking people that were heavily experimented on. And they were just standing there. It was a very dimly lit room. And I was tuning out of what I was experiencing, and I was just ignoring it and bouncing the ball. So also, some of the intimidation, the yelling, the sounds of the yelling, and things going on in the facility. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very weird. Some people have a lot more memory of some terrible things, but yeah.
Now, do you know how they wipe your memory? Is it like Men in Black type, like from the movies, where they have a device, or that flashes, or like, do you know like how they go about wiping your memory?
Yeah, that something like that definitely works, but they can also use just a trigger word if you're programmed. And also in your dream space. And here's something else that happened when I came in, when I was younger, or when I was born. I had a certain IQ capacity that was diminished, and part of what they did at that facility was they do certain brain surgeries.
Like a
And
lobotomy?
Not completely lobotomy. I mean, obviously, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But I know that I was diminished from what I could have been. Like, I felt like I had a much higher level of mathematical knowledge, just sort of innate. And that became kind of a little bit of a struggle for me when I was older. When I started, academically working towards certain things. And also with that, they also pull out memory. So they can do some very, very interesting types of surgery, and also they can do it in ways that they do it there, but you feel it here, type of thing. It's almost like you ever hear about the scenario with the clones, where they do the work there, and you there feels it, but the other one doesn't feel it, but you still have the residual effect of it. So yeah, that's part of how they do some of these things. And I believe that for some people, they'll go to sleep, and then they feel like they've been really heavily wiped, so they forget a lot. And it brings in like a level of anxiety, like post-traumatic stress a bit. So you're like, oh geez, what just happened to me, and sometimes me and even others that I've known, you're talking and you literally feel feel the information just being pulling out of you. It's really weird.
I feel like that happens to me sometimes.
Like you're trying to talk about something and then it just like it, yeah. And we're not talking about old age or anything like that. It's like it depends on the topic that you're discussing, or you're starting to remember something, and then all of a sudden you just feel that lifts. It's like they don't want it discussed.
Yeah, like it's blank and there's nothing there anymore.
Right.
So, so how many years were you? I mean, was it an isolated incident, or was it a long period of time that you were where you have these kind of memories that have been wiped?
I have. I remember when I was in junior high, I had a whole parallel recall of being, here I am, just a regular kid going to school. Maybe I was like, I don't know, it was 6th, 7th, 8th grade, right around that time. And I had a whole recall of this being in the same town. And there was a man that was in his maybe 30s. Now, keep in mind my age. And he's talking to me. And I'm asking him, why can't I see my family? They live here. And he'd say, no, because you have to stay with me. It was like this whole narrative that I had a full recall of. And I was like, that was part of the MyLab, that I was being held in this space simultaneously while another part of me was actually existing. And I had friends, I had family. I was in school. And there I was aware that my school was there, my friends were there, family, and I wasn't allowed to communicate with any of them.
Wow. How difficult.
Yeah. And it was difficult because you sit there, you remember it, and you're like, well, how do I know this? That's the part that becomes baffling. And I think some of the things that I experienced were so strange to me that, and I had, when I started sharing my psychic knowledge or working with clients or working with the public, I used to do fairs. There could be like so many other psychics there. None of them were talking about anything like this. And it wasn't until I met Peter the Insider that he started to explain everything, similar to the reason why they wanted you to contact Peter and I for Johnny G, is because not a lot of people have information around these guides. And with Peter has a very unique type of computer system that has additional information from the ACIO that he's been able to extract information. And he and I will collaborate. I'll tell him what I see, and then sometimes he has another piece of it, and we'll discuss things back and forth.
So the ACIO is not affiliated with a government entity, is that right?
Correct.
So you guys are independent.
In a weird way, I mean, they're by a Pine Gap facility over, in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
But they're here, but they're not here. I'll say it like that. It's almost like it's not something that's very disclosed. So Peter, usually he will not show his face because of his deeper connection. And I'm the one that usually, he'll have conversations with me, but he doesn't, he has to get permission about certain topics that we're discussing and different types of disclosure that he is allowed to reveal, which is usually different from a lot of, he has been about 2 years ahead of events. I've been calculating approximately. So he'll tell me something's going to happen. He told me we were going to be in a full lockdown. Maybe close. I know for sure it was like 6 months before. He was trying to let me know this was happening, and I said, I don't believe it. He was telling me about the nanotech that they were using for injections. And I didn't know how they were going to do that, and it ended up happening. And I have everything recorded and dated. So there's a lot of information that they're aware of what's going on. But he's trying to inform the public of what's happening now. And the biggest challenge we've had is Peter is originally Slavic, and so he doesn't speak English very proficiently. And so then people get tripped up on that. I think he does too, but I hear more complaints about, well, it's interesting, but I just can't get past Peter or something. And they're like, I'm like, you know what? If the information was that important to you, you would listen through it, because that's what I did. Because at first I didn't know what to think about some of the things he was saying, and then they started happening, and they kept happening. And so I said, well, you know, I mean, these are things that, you know, our world's taken a complete turn that I don't think anyone expected.
So you're saying he's 2 years ahead of knowing certain events that are going to happen? Is it because they're part of initiating it?
No.
Or because of just they're getting the intelligence on it?
They're getting the intelligence on it. The ACIO is a group that is supposed to be in a non-involvement, but observer-like as well. But they have an awareness of what's going on in the future. And they've actually pointed out different things of where humanity is going in the future, which is a very AI reality, unless we change something here. Yeah.
Well, that's definitely
reality is where we want to be.
Yeah, I don't think we want to be in like a Matrix situation.
No.
I was thinking more like the Terminator.
Yeah. I mean, that's a perfect example of someone coming back from the future and then going and hunting someone.
But you know, Kyle, Terminators all have the same weakness, which is they don't have eyes in the back of their head. Seems like a glaring weakness those robots left in place. So you just got to sneak up in them, pop, pop, double tap from behind. You're good.
Well, you know, the robots of the future look very human, very, very human, like more like Android. Huh?
We'll be good because they don't fix the eye thing in the back of the head.
So they, you know, there's a lot.
That's a positive outlook, Sam. It really is.
It's kind of like the Death Star. There's got to be one fail-safe type of thing. There's got to be one weakness.
There is. You know, I mean, it's just like anything. If you understand what's going on, but then you have to really be knowledgeable about what they're doing, because they are way ahead of us, the average person, as far as their technology and things they were doing. I think the whole thing with androids, Peters was talking about androids, and everyone was like, oh yeah, well, you know, I mean, thinking that he's just talking about sci-fi information. And then in Japan, there were actually those female androids that look very, very human even now. I don't know if you've seen them before.
Oh yeah. They say they're for like sex and stuff, but they're really going to kill you. That's really what they're for.
I know. Which brings us back to Johnny G.
Yeah. That's a great.
You know, right?
Absolutely. He's a very handsome man who has been used to kill people.
I don't know if he's killing people, but and that's terrible.
He said he killed 2 people in that one event.
Video.
Okay. All right. I'd rather him say that about it than me to imply or anything like that. But I will say that you know, if the part of his life where they're blocking him or they're wiping his memory, and then they're having him work for them, and you know, they have him on missions, specific agendas, possibly out in a place where he's extremely exposed and vulnerable to get harmed. And then afterwards, they send the handlers, the females of the handlers, tell him, they act like they don't know him, but they're there to handle him and get him, you know, kind of vulnerable. They pull information from him.
Handle him.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to handle him.
That's what they do, and that's the purpose. That's why they find out what a person's orientation is, and then they will,
Sex them.
use sex. It's the perfect. I mean, you know that from 007, but it's pretty much the same idea. So he's doing something fairly important if they have that harem showing up all the time.
Mm.
Yeah. Because I know people that are really attractive, and they don't have that many people showing, that many women throwing themselves at them.
Well, I hope you count us among that list.
Sure.
Sam.
Of course, Sam. We won't leave you guys out.
Well,
but then again, you're not.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, then again, you're not out in the firing line either.
Well,
you wouldn't want to trade with him, trust me.
No, I don't. I don't need people giving me random injections that I don't know what's in it. I don't need trackers in the back of my head. I don't need electric lights going off, jogging, any of that stuff.
No,
what I need
can't have a normal life like that. Absolutely.
Right. What I need is regular injections of Mexican food. That's what I'm after.
Okay.
At any rate, I feel like an hour probably isn't enough time to even scratch the surface with you. The ACIO website has so much stuff. I'm going to put the link up here at acio-official.org. There is so much stuff. You and Peter have produced so much content that's available on YouTube. For anybody who is interested in diving deeper with Jessica and Peter the Insider, your YouTube channel is just your name, right? Jessica Marrocco.
Jessica Arael Marrocco. Yep.
Jessica Arael Marrocco, Arael. And there are hours and hours and hours of content on there. There's several different shows that you guys run, right? You have Disclosures. Run through them again with me. There's Disclosures.
We have Disclosures. We have Androna Talks Radio.
Androna Talks Radio.
Androna Talks News, and we have an Androna Talks news site that provides information of things that are happening. And then I have and we've done other types of interviews in the past. And when I was channeling, I was doing the Androna Talks show, which was from Most Spirit Radio before it no longer exists. But that was some of the earlier work that we did. So yeah, we've kind of archived and held on to a lot of the shows because there's a lot of information, and I have multiple books, and so people can see all that information on my website, as well as readingsbyariel.com. But can I say one thing before we leave really quick?
Yeah, sure.
One thing that Johnny said, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was some incident with a bullet. Someone shot a bullet at him or something like that, and it shattered.
Yeah, I think he did say that.
Yeah, it hit him in the forehead.
Yeah. You have to have super soldier abilities to do something like that.
Because I think what he said was there was just like a little bit of, like a very minimal amount of blood there.
Yeah. That's not normal.
No.
Right.
Well.
And I believe him. I believe he told the truth. And he may have like some kind of kinesis or some other abilities too that may or may not recognize. So
you did get into that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
One quick question before you go. The pictures that show the people with phones and stuff, and old pictures like that picture of Marilyn Monroe with the person of court. I mean, is that how many of those are really out there? I mean, so that's kind of proof of or
time travel.
That this is really going on.
Yeah, Andrew Basaggio from the Pegasus Project. He has a picture of him, way back during, I think it was revolutionary time. No, it was during the time of Lincoln, I believe. Yeah, the time travel has been going on for quite a long time, a lot longer than you realize. I've seen even travelers from other earlier time periods than the 1900s. So yeah, we do discuss that a little bit. There's one of our pages on the website, on the ACIO official agency .org. So you'll find it there.
Awesome.
Very good. Jessica, thank you so much for spending your time with us. I know you are a very busy person and you're doing so much good work out there. So we appreciate you taking the time, and also all of the emails that you answered from me. I really appreciate your responses. And hopefully in the future we can have you come back and crack some more stuff open, maybe dig a little deeper in that iceberg. But in the meantime, we'll be following your program with Peter, I'm sorry, and following all of the things, the disclosures that are coming out of the ACIO. And until next time, everyone, let's keep on exploring images of the unknown.